Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at pipx on Ubuntu 2304 and Debian. And the reason for this is there's been a change in the upstream that means the pip install command doesn't work in Ubuntu 2304 or Debian due to an intentional shift in policy. Basically to avoid conflicts between the Python package manager and underlying apt. Basically, you can't run pip install outside a virtual environment in Ubuntu 2304 or any Debian distribution. So if you try, what it's basically going to happen is you're going to get an error saying externally managed environment. And this article on OMG Ubuntu, which is a great site, provides a couple of solutions. So the one we're actually going to be going with is the one down here, pipx. So what I'm going to do is actually show you how to use this to install pilfer, which is a Python script that I wrote about 6 years ago for Kodi that allows you to record videos from within Kodi. So normally what we'd do, if I come down to the setup, is normally when you're running pip, you do something like pip3 install -user -user and the path of the Git repository on GitHub. That's not going to work anymore. So what we actually need to do is run a couple of commands instead. So what I'm going to do is take you through this and show you that this is going to work without any extra configuration to Kodi, so that the pilfer script will continue to work. So if you've just switched to Ubuntu 2304 or Debian, the latest version of Debian, this is how you're going to need to install pilfer. So I'm just going to use this as an example. So first of all, what we're going to do is run sudo apt install pipx, and I've already done that, but see, it's already done. So the next thing you need to do after you've done that is run pipx ensure path. So paste that in, pipx ensure path. Local bin is already in the path, and that's because I've already done that. So that's the location in the player core factory XML file for Kodi that is used to launch external players. But what we're doing is we're using this player core factory XML file from Kodi to actually run the pilfer script so we can record stuff from Kodi. So the next step is actually installing pilfer using pipx. And again, normally what you'd do is you'd run, pip3 install -user and that path. And I said that's not going to work, so we're using pipx. The syntax is quite similar. So we're going to run pipx install here, paste that in. Okay, and you can see here, package pilfer 2.0 was installed using Python 3.11.2. These apps are now available globally, pilfer and pilfer play. So that's it, job done. So if I, oh for fuck's sake, I hate the default shortcut key that locks the screen. Sorry, I'm just used to pressing Control L to clear the screen. So if I now run pilfer-h, you can see it's actually displaying the help, and so it's installed. So what I'm going to do is actually launch Kodi here, and what I've got is a copy of Night of the Living Dead from archive.org, which is in the public domain and not subject to any copyright issues. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because YouTube loves to take these videos down, so have to be very specific that this is in the public domain, there's no issues with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press C on the keyboard, and I'm going to go to play using. And what this does is this brings up the Kodi menu that allows you to launch external video players. But what we're doing is actually using it to run scripts instead. So what we can do is play the video of an external player, record it, record the audio, record the video for like an hour, 2 hours, whatever. So what I'm going to do first of all is save the URL. And what you'll see here is it's actually saved the URL to a text file on the desktop. And you can see here, this is the path to Night of the Living Dead on archive.org. And that, let me just open up my videos folder. Okay, so in my videos folder that I've scanned into Kodi, what I have is a .strm file, which is a text file. And in there, I have that link. So what I wanted to do is just show you that when I save the link, it's actually saving the URL. So what I can now do, come across, press C on the keyboard, do play using, record video. And what's going to happen is we'll give it a second or two because the links on archive.org take a while to actually kick in. So as you can see here, it's now actually saving that video to the desktop. And then what I'm going to do is just on pkill fmpeg, okay, and then play that. So you can there you can see Night of the Living Dead come up. So that's all working. So you know the reason I did that was because basically otherwise I was going to get comments from people who just upgraded to Ubuntu 23.04 or the latest version of Debian or any Debian distribution, saying that the instructions for installing the pilfer script no longer work because of this error that you're going to get, which is externally managed environment. So that's the error that you're going to get if you try and install something with pip normally. It won't let you. I think this is only this only affects Debian-based distributions, so there's not that many then, really, is it? You know, only Ubuntu, Linux, Mint, all the spin-offs. So you know that's something that's going to be a bit of an issue. Now, there was another method down here using Python-free virtual environments, and that's just a nightmare. Using this method. So don't try using this method because the problem with it is there's a couple of issues. You have to activate the virtual environment every time you boot up, and it only works in the terminal that you've actually activated it in. So if you open another terminal, commands won't work. Also, I tried using this method and running the scripts from within Kodi just doesn't work at all, just completely fails. So don't use this this method unless you really have to, because you basically have to activate the virtual environment every time you boot up, and I couldn't find a way to automate that, either using a startup application or putting it in your .profile or bash RC. Basically what you have to do is if I come across to my other notes here, Python 3. So this is what I was trying before. Actually, you can create the virtual environment like this. Virtual environment pilfer. Then you actually have to source it and activate it. Then you can actually install a package using pip, but you actually have to use this special format --use pep 517. That's great, and that will work, but as I said, it will only work in the terminal that you've actually sourced and activated the environment from, so it won't work in any other terminal, and the scripts won't be available globally, so you can't actually launch them from anything else like Kodi or another script. So that was really annoying. So you want to use the pipex version. Very simple, only 3 lines of code. Sudo app install pipex. Then you have to run pipex ensure path, and what that does is that makes sure that the bin directory is in your local path, so that you can actually run the scripts globally. And then to install something, you just run pipex install, and then as you can see here, this is the format for actually installing something from GitHub. You run git plus and then the actual link to the Git repository, and that will then install pilfer basically. So I'll put the updated information for Ubuntu 23.04 and Debian on this page, so that I don't get any comments or issues raised on GitHub. But basically, I just wanted to show you that it actually does sort of work. As you can see, if I just clear the screen, if I'm pilfer dash H here, you can see I'll open a new tab. You can see the commands available there, and I can also let me just remove that video, rm video, pilfer dash I can quit Kodi now, so let me just quit Kodi. Pilfer dash I URL running ffmpeg command. I've already got ffmpeg installed, so just need to give it a second to kick in, because the as I said, the links on archive.org actually take a while to kick in, and especially more so when you're actually doing a demo. There you go. You can see that's actually kicking in and recording. So you can record on the command line and from within Kodi, and I just wanted to bring that up because otherwise someone else would. And it's really irritating that you kind of got to do this, but I can understand why they've sort of changed the way this works, because otherwise there were sort of issues being created with conflicts between things installed with apt and Python using pip, and especially since a lot of things tend to use Python now, so if there's any conflict, it can actually mean that you can't, it'll affect the desktop some way, you won't be able to log in or what have you. So, as I said, there were 3 ways mentioned on this OMG article, OMG Ubuntu article. I said, don't try this one because it's a real pain. I think the pipex one here, the catch is that pipex does not work with Python libraries, only apps, as it were. So that's basically that. I don't know what the third way was. Pipex, Python environment. Okay, yeah. So basically, the first one, it was saying, just use the repo version. Just use the version that's in the repo. But obviously, if I do a apt search pilfer, yeah, you can see my scripts obviously aren't in the Python repositories for Ubuntu. So that's why we have to install them manually from GitHub. So first one's out. The second one, as I said, is going to cause you no end of problems. It's really annoying. And the third one is much easier to use. So it's only 3 commands. Those 3 as I've shown you. And everything works. You don't need to make any changes to your setup with Pilfer and Kodi. But just something I wanted to mention, because otherwise I'll get a lot of comments coming up in the next few weeks probably. So that's something that only affects Debian-based distributions and Ubuntu 23.04. If you do a search for like Ubuntu 23.04 pip, you'll see this article comes up pop. So that's why you should have subscribe to this site, because it does actually have some useful things. It's actually got a sister site called OMG Linux, I think. I think that's the name. Is there a link here? Let me see. Is it Linux OMG or OMG Linux? OMG Linux. Yeah, OMG Linux sister site. So this has got a lot of good stuff on it as well. Worth keeping up with. So that's all for now, and hope that helps you out. If you've just upgraded to Ubuntu 2304 or any Debian distribution, and again, this is Ubuntu 2304. And actually, while I've got this up, what I want to do is actually go through a couple of little tips that you might not be aware of. When you first install Ubuntu 2304, the first thing you'll notice is your fans are going bonkers. I'm going to show you how to stop that and the reason for it. The reason your fans will be kicking into overdrive is something called tracker miner. So if I come in here, come to the settings, what you need to do is actually come into the search and disable all of this. Disable all the search, because what it does is it runs this script or program called tracker miner, which basically indexes everything on the hard drive. So all the files, you can see it will index, all the settings, characters, calculators, all the files, all that kind of stuff. And what it will do is you'll peg your CPU to about 100%. So that's the first thing you actually want to do when you installed Ubuntu 2304. The other thing that I would recommend is coming to accessibility, seeing, and turning on reduced motion. And what that does is that removes all the animations. So that's actually will make your desktop snappier when you're switching workspaces, because otherwise there's an animation that takes seems like forever to me. So turn that on. That's another thing you want to do. Let me just come through. Is there anything else? Here's the standard stuff: style, dark mode, Ubuntu desktop. The other thing is position of new icons. You can see here there's actually an extension that's enabled on Ubuntu that, well, there's a couple of extensions. There's obviously the dock. There's another extension that adds desktop icons, and by default, for some reason, it's actually set to bottom left. So the icon, all new files and icons will appear down there. You can show personal folder, and what that does is that shows your home. But I don't like doing that because I always feel like I do something stupid, like clear up start clearing up unused files from the desktop and stick the home in the trash. So I always actually turn that off. The other thing you want to do is turn on auto hide the dock, and what that does is that will hide the dock when you move that across. Panel mode, you can see by default it's like that. If you turn panel mode off, it will shrink the dock size. You can change the position here. You can configure dock behavior so that it includes volumes and devices or unmounted volumes, that sort of thing. If you can toggle show trash off. Just quickly go through. There's the search. You can leave multitasking alone. I'm just wondering if there's anything else. Yeah, power. What I tend to do is in the power, set the screen never to blank, because otherwise sometimes it can kick in and turn the display off. Mouse and track. Okay, the other thing, you want traditional scrolling. Seriously, you don't want natural scrolling. Keyboard. I think that, this is where you can view and customize keyboard shortcuts. So a useful one here is play or pause. So if you come into down here, view custom keyboard shortcuts, sound and media, play and pause, you can set a keyboard toggle for that, and that will use Empress to pause the currently playing video, and that will work with web browsers, things like Firefox, Chrome. I'm not sure if it works with Kodi, but it can also work with MPV player, but you need to install MPV Empress. So sudo apt install MPV Empress. And what that will do is that will enable Empress support in MPV so that you can actually use keyboard shortcuts from GNOME to actually pause the video playing in MPV, which is really useful. So that's just a quick tip there. Accessibility, I'll just quickly go through some of these. You can use these to, like launch a default web browser terminal. The Windows is where you want to change a lot of the stuff, so you can actually change the keyboard shortcuts for toggling full screen. So normally full screen is going to be F12, but what I like to do is change it to Super S, which is easier on the left hand. So this is where you can change all the Windows. I think, is it system as well? I think there's some in there. Printers, nothing in there. So I'm just quickly going through. This is just a stock install of Ubuntu. Yeah, that's the other thing, is there's actually an issue. Let me just bring up settings and see what version of the kernel we're on. Yeah, 6.2. There's an issue with the 6.2 kernel and Broadcom Wi-Fi drivers. And Broadcom Wi-Fi drivers are typically used in things like old MacBooks. So Linux kernel 6.2 Broadcom. Basically, if you do a search for Linux kernel 6.2 Broadcom or Ubuntu 23 Broadcom, what you'll find is there's lots of people having errors. And what I found is this affects both. I tried Fedora and Ubuntu 2304 on my 2011 MacBook Air, which has got Broadcom Wi-Fi drivers. And what happens is the system will just lock up after a minute or two. So you can install Ubuntu 2304 or Fedora or anything with a Linux 6.2 kernel. And what will happen is the install will work, boot up, and start using it for a minute to update the system, and it will just completely lock up. And it just means you can't update the system or anything. And the fix that that I actually came up with was actually just to simply disable Wi-Fi. So what I do is to fix that issue is just come across here and actually turn off Wi-Fi completely and just use Ethernet. And hopefully there'll be an update soon that will actually fix the issue with the Wi-Fi drivers. But at least you'll be able to have a system that doesn't lock up every minute or two. So that's another issue with Ubuntu 2304. Things with the Linux 6.2 kernel. As I said, if you do Ubuntu 2304 Broadcom, Broadcom Wi-Fi conflicts, you'll come across lots of bugs. Basically, I think there's supposed to be a fix coming up, maybe in the 6.3 kernel. I'm not sure. I thought I saw something mentioned about that, but as I said, the issue is literally the install will go fine, start using the computer, everything will lock up, you reboot it, and it will lock up again. And the only way that I found to get around that is just to simply disable Wi-Fi, and that fixed the issue. So that was just something I wanted to mention. Also, if you've upgraded and you're using something that's got a Broadcom Wi-Fi driver and you're experiencing problems, there may be a way to blacklist the driver. But what you'll also notice is when you go to additional drivers, you've got the additional drivers set up in here. Will this open up? Okay. You've got like the additional drivers, and it will normally list your proprietary drivers down here. and what you'll find is next to the Broadcom one, it will say could not be installed or something like that. It's not in use, something along those lines. I forget. So there may be a way to blacklist it, but basically I just turned the Wi-Fi off, and it's just something I wanted to mention. So that's using pipx to install Python scripts on Ubuntu 23.04 and all Debian distributions, because you can't use pip anymore outside a virtual environment because it might conflict with stuff installed with apt. So I'll put links to all this and update the documentation on the pilfer site for the new install instructions, and that's all for now, and I hope that helps out.